I'm Stuart Thompson, Editorial Director of decodeTV, and I'm here with Steve Russell, who's SVP of Global Markets at Irdeto. We're going to be talking about some of the big opportunities and challenges in streaming and some of the technology solutions that can help operators make the most of those opportunities and overcome the challenges. Steve, let's begin by talking about Irdeto Experience. You've created a video streaming aggregation platform uh, called Irdeto Experience. With so much fragmentation in streaming, what do you see as the main pain points that viewers are facing, and how does Irdeto Experience address those?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say fragmentation is one of the defining characteristics of our industry at the moment. And we all know that from our own experience of trying to watch what we love when we want to watch it. Too many apps, too many places to look for content, too many subscriptions. And the whole thing just feels like a labyrinth of difficulty when we want to watch the stuff that we want to watch. And that creates a major problem within the industry, not just in terms of satisfaction for the user, but in terms of the business model for the service providers. Nobody wants dissatisfied customers, and there's an obvious cost of business within churn. And churn is a major issue for many organizations that we speak to at the moment. And that was one of the major planks of our rationale to launch Editor Experience as a streaming aggregation platform.
Great. Now, when you look at the ways viewers are discovering and engaging with content, how do you see that changing or evolving, and how do you think operators should adapt to that?
Yeah, so the expectation just keeps rising. You know, the world's getting more fragmented, but the aspiration and hope of the user, the expectation is growing in terms of what would they reasonably expect from a service they provide. Our belief is that the operators can step into this as an opportunity, and some of the operators that we work with are really pushing into what we call the super aggregation space. And operators, whether they be pay TV, whether they be telcos, or whether they be streaming providers natively, they've always been aggregators of content. The super aggregation play is to add to the classic content bundle with third-party apps, with other sources of content and entertainment. The opportunity for the operators is to bundle all that together within a joined up unified experience. What do I mean by unified experience? I mean that whatever device I go to, I get a consistent feeling. There's continuity between my experiences across devices and across operating systems and ecosystems. But more importantly than that, I get a consistent way to access all of the content that I'm choosing to watch, whether that's on a third-party app, whether it's the operator's own native content, whether it's local content, global content, live, linear, on demand, wherever it's coming from, I can access that within a consistent experience. And then increasingly, rather than the platform being a fairly passive reactor to what the user is searching for, we're increasingly expecting as a user to for the platform to anticipate our need. And that's where the various technologies around recommendation engines and personalization really come to the fore to create that really joined up, creating the platform the user wants to go to in the evening when they sit down, either with their family or alone.
Yeah, we've heard a lot about personalization over the years, but it's really coming to the fore now, I think. So switching topics slightly, Irdeto is obviously known primarily, I guess, as a company that helps combat piracy. And when we're talking about streaming, we hear a lot more increasingly about content piracy, and especially sports piracy, which is a growing and massive real problem for sports streamers particularly. What makes live sports particularly vulnerable, and how can Irdeto help the rights holder do something about it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing that makes live sports vulnerable is the thing that makes it attractive and valuable. It's a point of time viewing moment where everybody wants to be in the room, in the stadium, able to tap into the excitement as it happens, whatever sport or live event it is. So there's an immediacy to it, and that creates a huge bow wave of demand to watch the content. And if the user is either unwilling or unable to access that content through a legitimate source, then the natural thing to do is to start looking for alternatives. And the piracy market, which is a very sophisticated business model in its own right, is addressing that as an opportunity by surfacing opportunities to watch that live content in all sorts of places. And the the traditional ways in which you may combat piracy through takedown notices, through other means of you know of intervening between the source and the delivery of the content, have to move within the pace of a live event. And so the pace of the reaction has to be that much harder, that much faster, that much more aggressive. And you're right, Irdeto is well known within that market, and we work with many of the largest sports distributors, because we do work within the live environment. We do react within real time, and I can explain a little bit more about those services.
When we talk about piracy, we hear about different forms of piracy. I mean, we hear about, CDN leeching, we hear about IPTV streaming, we hear about all sorts of ways in which content is now leaking out. What piracy trends are you tracking most closely right now, and how do you see them evolving over the next couple of years?
I mean, one major trend is the increasing sophistication of the piracy services. So these are looking and feeling all the more legitimate, taking legitimate means of payment, presenting themselves as an aggregation platform in their own right. Um, and so the, the 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 piracy, let's not think of it as being a some sort of side business. These are major operators in their own right. Um, the increasing use of social media platforms as a means of proliferating access to either the content itself or services that carry the content. Um, the pirates themselves using AI as a tool to distribute access to the content across many more platforms and distribution areas. Um, and then another is the use of things like crypto as a different way of taking payment in order to obfuscate the path the payment flows.
I guess it's a good point that the pirates are setting themselves up as kind of service providers in their own right and monetizing somebody else's content successfully. From your point of view, how does fighting piracy translate into not only protecting revenue streams, but maybe opening up new opportunities for revenue for broadcasters and streamers?
Yeah, so first thing, for many streamers with access to exclusive content, piracy will be their greatest competitor. So um, let's first put it in that context. Um, the second thing to say is that um, with a sophisticated operator that we're competing with, you need to have the widest array of tools, techniques, services, and technologies in order to make a difference. And uh, one of the things that Irdeto brings to the party is, a breadth of services to address that threat in as many ways as is possible, including content protection technologies that we're extremely well known for, as well as dedicated anti-piracy services, things like online piracy detection to real-time detect where piracy is happening and to intervene with it, as well as services like our Tracemark, which is the leading watermark service on the market that allows people to identify the source of the the pirated stream, as well as offering the ability to intervene and to block, those feeds. And uh, where we work most successfully is with those providers that choose to apply that broad canvas of different services in quite a sophisticated way, often changing their approach over time with us as a consultant in order to have a proven effect on the impact on their business. Um, Part of your question is what is the impact on revenue and what is the business reality of this? Well, first, this is trying to deal with a major competitor. Let's see it in that light. Um, but second, I think everybody knows that by um, by intervening with piracy, it has to have an impact on the revenue model because you're taking away illegitimate ways of watching your content. There's not an awful lot in the public domain in terms of that impact. Operators are nervous to talk about it in some cases. Um, Maybe one example of an analogous technique is Netflix's crackdown on password sharing. So back in 2024, I think it was quarter 1, Netflix was well publicized in being far more aggressive in the way that they started to crack down on password sharing. Now, I know this is a different class of usage to piracy, but it is a still a illegitimate means of accessing the service. That focus on that one aspect of illegitimate usage had a 14% increase in their subscription base within 1 quarter and had a dramatic effect on their share price and their revenues. So that's one example of how focus on these areas can have, a real effect. Um, the other way to look at it is by, many measures that have been put out there by sports federations and other organizations. This is a problem within the tens of billions of dollars.
Yeah.
So, there's a substantial bounty for the operators that can have a significant impact on their piracy landscape.
Yeah, absolutely. I think obviously with the Netflix credential sharing crackdown, that obviously helps the subscription model significantly and boosts their subscription revenue. When you look at other forms of revenue that streamers are now attempting to use either to complement subscription or as an alternative, like for example, advertising or things like that, are there ways in which um, the security solutions can play a role there in helping operators design new ways of making money from their content?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, the role of Editor has always been within that content protection, space, which means that we are embedded within the ecosystem of content as it flows, um, not just in the video path, but actually, we're integrated into the business path as well, and so as a result, we're kind of at the heart of the content ecosystem for quite a number of operators, which gives our systems and capabilities the visibility of what is going on where, which can be translated back into actions to increase monetization. Um, one easy example of where we're working a lot at the moment is with customers that are may have implemented technologies like server-side ad insertion on their streaming infrastructure, but they still have a substantial base of users over traditional pay TV mechanisms, DTH platforms into the home, and um, working with those kind of organizations to offer addressable advertising opportunities. So taking the data insights that you understand of the viewing behaviors and the users, taking our path within the delivery flow, and then our back end integration to things like Google Ad Manager and other sources of content, and our partnerships with other parts of the ad ecosystem, bringing all that together to deliver tangible revenue increases for significant operators in part of their user base that they haven't been able to monetize in the same way as they have with SSAI on the streaming side. Um, that's an interesting opportunity, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. And from your perspective, I mean, do you see what sort of trends like that do you see in the way that streamers are monetizing content, especially with the subscription model becoming, mature and a little bit more competitive?
I come from a product management background, Stuart, and I think probably one of the kind of broader meta trends that I see here is the role of product management within the streamer business. And the relevance to your question here is, a lot of product management is about, um, having a roadmap and adding new features. But equally, it's about having the flexibility and adaptability to try things out. You know, the fail fast mentality, and um, within the monetization space, it's this ability to um, have a holistic view of all the possible monetization models, whether it's pay-per-view, whether it is give a sample and pay later, if it's traditional subscription models and all the variations within subscriptions, and then tying that against advertising or hybrid models across the two. Um, these are all logically available within the industry. The difficulty often is the ability to flex and try these things out, and when they succeed, lean into them at scale. And one of the attractive aspects of Irdeto experience and the offer that we bring to our customers is not just the flexibility to try these things out, but the ability to really ramp them up, because if nothing else, we are very well known for being extremely reliable at scale. We've always been at the heart of the largest flows of media within the market. So that combination of fleet of foot, try things out, innovate, as well as lean into it and grow for the things that are really working. I think that's one of the trends that I see, and I see that as a product management trend within the market.
Right, absolutely. Just to wrap up, and one of the deals you did recently, or one of the implementations you did recently, was with Astro, the Malaysian pay TV platform, and their Suka streaming service, which I think is one of the growth opportunities for that company, because it's, again, I think it's an interesting mixed revenue model they have. What can you tell us a little bit about how that's going? What's happening with that? Maybe give us an update and how that collaboration works and is progressing.
Yeah, so Suka launched in January. What is Suka? It's a tier one streaming service within Malaysia. Why is it interesting? Well, it brings every element of a streaming platform all together within a single service. The best of the global content, as well as the major rights in live sports, as well as huge investment in local content, in multi-language, applying all the different business models that you can imagine. It was an established service that they had in market. They felt that they could improve the reliability and the flexibility of their offer. And they basically took a deep breath and decided to replace their entire live platform to underpin it with Irdeto experience, providing the front end and back end capabilities. And so basically change the engine mid-flight, while keeping the service, you know, running perfectly. And the reaction to that within the market has been fantastic. Um, they're and the confidence that I feel from Astro in that service and seeing it as a growth engine in the business, has been fundamentally important to them right the way up to the CEO and board level. The you know, One of the proof points for that I love is the Google Play Store rating. So we could talk a lot about technology. We could talk a lot about sort of buffering, and we could talk about time to play and all the different typical stats that you put around streaming experience. One of the really important headline markers is do users love it? And the Play Store is one way of looking at that. And I think their reviews at the moment are, out of the 5 rating, it's something like 4.5. And I think even Netflix, is within their market is kind of either not quite there or only just about there. Um, uh, and that's a dramatic turnaround from where it was this time last year. So, you know, I, for full respect to Astro, they've taken the difficult decision to, you know, totally replace their underpinning platform with the Editor experience, and the result has been, far happier customer base, far more flexible platform, fantastic unified experience for the users, and an operationally effective model in the back end as well. Because it's not just about providing service; it's about doing so at an economic and manageable level, and they've achieved all of those goals.
Great. Yeah, beating Netflix on customer satisfaction after transforming your platform sounds like a very good case study. So a good point to wrap up. Steve, thanks very much.
Thanks, Stuart. Nice speaking to you.